Today we have a kind of a wish video, but I will talk about the United Kingdom's accession to the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, the CPTPP, and that it represents a pivotal moment in its post-Brexit trade strategy. The CPTPP, a major trade bloc comprising 11 countries from the Asia-Pacific region, is often cited by Brexiteers as proof that the UK can thrive independently of the European Union. They argue that joining the CPTPP validates Brexit's promise of new global trade opportunities. However, the reality of these benefits, the obligations that the UK must fulfill as a member, and the history of the UK's accession reveal a more nuanced picture. Let's put it that way. Brexiteers have consistently highlighted the UK's CPTPP membership as a key success story in the post-Brexit era. They make several key claims about the benefits that this trade agreement offers. A central argument put forward by Brexiteers is that the CPTPP provides the UK with access to some of the world's fastest growing economies. While the Asia-Pacific region, which includes Japan, Canada, Australia and Singapore, is seen as crucial for the UK's efforts to diversify its trade relationships beyond Europe. And Brexiteers argue that membership in the CPTPP allows the UK to tap into a combined market of over 500 million people, providing significant opportunities for British businesses in sectors ranging from manufacturing to financial services. And one of the key features of the CPTPP is the reduction or elimination of tariffs on 95% of goods traded between member countries. And Brexiteers assert that this will result in lower costs for UK exporters, making British products more competitive in international markets. For consumers, this could mean access to a wider range of goods at lower prices. Sectors such as agriculture, automotive and pharmaceuticals are frequently cited as likely beneficiaries of these reduced trade barriers. And Brexiteers view the CPTPP as a strategic opportunity to strengthen the UK's economic ties with the Asia-Pacific region. This region is expected to drive global economic growth in the coming decades, and closer ties with these economies are seen as essential for the UK's long-term prosperity. Beyond trade, the CPTPP is also seen as a platform for greater cooperation in areas such as technology, innovation and digital services, where the UK has significant expertise. A cornerstone of the Brexit campaign was the idea of taking back control of the UK's trade policy, which had been largely dictated by the EU from their view. Brexiteers argue that the CPTPP exemplifies the UK's newfound ability to negotiate and join trade agreements that align with its national interests. Unlike the EU, where the trade agreements must be approved by all member states, the UK can now pursue its trade agenda independently, free from the constraints of EU membership. And Brexiteers also highlight the geopolitical implications of CPTPP membership, because of joining the CPTPP is seen as a way for the UK to pivot its focus towards the Indo-Pacific, a region that is increasingly central to global geopolitics and economics. And this shift is framed as part of the UK's broader Global Britain strategy, which seeks to establish the country as a leading global player post-Brexit. By aligning with dynamic economies outside Europe, the UK is believed to be positioning itself at the forefront of global economic trends. While the benefits outlined by Brexiteers have some validity, a closer examination reveals that the reality is more complex. The economic gains from CPTPP membership may be, I'm carefully putting that, more modest than claimed, and there are several challenges and trade-offs that must be considered. While the CPTPP does offer access to new markets, the overall economic impact for the UK is expected to be quite limited. Government estimates suggest that CPTPP membership could increase UK GDP by around 0.08% over the long term. That is a relatively small figure, especially when compared to the estimated economic losses resulting from Brexit, particularly in terms of lost access to the EU single market, which accounted for more than 40% of the UK's trade. Therefore, while CPTPP membership may bring some benefits, it's unlikely to fully offset the economic impact of Brexit. The sectors that are expected to benefit most from the CPTPP, such as agriculture and automotive manufacturing, represent a relatively small share of the UK economy. The UK's service sector, which is by far the largest part of the economy, is likely to see fewer direct benefits, as the CPTPP is more focused on goods trade than services. Moreover, the UK already had bilateral trade agreements with several CPTPP members, including Japan, Canada, and Mexico, while they were a member of the EU. And in some cases, the gains from the CPTPP may simply duplicate those already secured through the former agreements. The geopolitical significance of the CPTPP is also more limited than some proponents suggest. While the CPTPP does include several important economies, it does not include the region's largest economy, China. Furthermore, the United States, which was originally a driving force behind the TPP, the precursor to the CPTPP, withdrew from the agreement in 2017 under President Donald Trump. Without the US, the CPTPP's global economic clout is diminished, and while the UK can still benefit from closer ties with Asia-Pacific countries, the CPTPP is not a transformative geopolitical tool as it might have been if the US were still involved. And while the CPTPP does allow the UK to regain control over its trade policy, this comes with certain trade-offs. Membership in the CPTPP requires the UK to adhere to the rules and standards set by the agreement, which limits its ability to diverge from existing regulations in areas such as labor rights, environmental protection, and intellectual property. For example, the CPTPP includes provisions that require members to maintain high standards in these areas, which could constrain in the UK's ability to make changes to its regulatory framework that might conflict with CPTPP obligations. Another potential challenge is the impact of increased competition on certain domestic industries. For example, the UK's agricultural sector could face greater competition from imports from CPTPP member states like Australia and New Zealand, where producers benefit from lower costs and economies of scale. And this could put pressure on UK farmers even more and lead to calls for government support or protectionist measures, which could in turn create tensions with other CPTPP members. As a member of the CPTPP, the UK is required to meet a range of obligations that govern trade relations between member countries. These obligations are designed to ensure a level playing field, a word that's really liked by Brexiteers, and to facilitate trade and investment across the bloc. The CPTPP requires the UK to eliminate or significantly reduce tariffs on a wide range of goods traded with other member countries. And this includes sensitive sectors such as agriculture, where imports from countries like Australia and New Zealand will increase competition for UK producers. And while this can benefit consumers through lower prices, it could also pose challenges for certain domestic industries that may struggle to compete with cheaper imports. The CPTPP includes provisions that require members to uphold high standards in areas such as labor rights, environmental protection, and intellectual property, as I said. And the UK must align its domestic regulations with these standards, which could limit its ability to diverge from current policies. For example, the UK may be required to maintain stringent regulations on workers' rights and environmental protections to comply with the CPTPP commitments, even if there is domestic pressure to relax these standards. And the CPTPP has a dispute resolution mechanism designed to resolve trade disputes between member states. This mechanism allows countries to challenge policies that they believe violate CPTPP rules. As a member, the UK is subject to this mechanism, which means that it could face legal challenges from other members if its policies are perceived to breach CPTPP obligations. And this could constrain the UK's ability to enact certain trade or regulatory measures that are seen as conflicting with CPTPP rules. And the CPTPP includes provisions that protect foreign investments by ensuring that investors from member countries are treated fairly and equitably. This means that the UK must provide certain protections to foreign investors, which could impact its ability to regulate industries such as public services, healthcare, and utilities. For example, if a UK policy is deemed to unfairly harm the interests of a foreign investor, the UK could be required to provide compensation, which could limit its policy flexibility in certain areas. The CPTPP includes commitments on public procurement and services that require members to provide non-discriminatory access to their markets. This means that the UK must allow companies from other CPTPP member countries to bid for public contracts on an equal footing with domestic firms. While this can enhance competition and potentially lead to cost savings for the government, it could also raise concerns about the impact on UK businesses, particularly small and medium-sized enterprises, the so-called SMEs, that may find it harder to compete with larger foreign firms. And the CPTPP includes comprehensive provisions on intellectual property and digital trade, which are increasingly important in the global economy. The UK is required to adhere to these provisions, which include strong protections for IP rights and commitments to promote the free flow of data across borders. These obligations could have significant implications for the UK's digital economy and innovation policies, as well as for its approach to data protection and privacy. The UK's path to CPTPP membership is rooted in its broader efforts to redefine its role in the global economy following Brexit. The CPTPP, originally known as the Trans-Pacific Partnership, as I said, was conceived as a major trade agreement involving the United States and 11 other countries. The TPP was intended to create a comprehensive economic partnership across the Asia-Pacific region, with the US playing a central role in shaping the agreement. However, as I said, in 2017, the US withdrew from the TPP under President Donald Trump's administration, citing concerns that the agreement would undermine American jobs and sovereignty. Isn't that funny? Following the US withdrawal, the remaining 11 countries renegotiated the agreement, leading to the creation of the CPTPP in 2018. The CPTPP retained much of the original TPP's framework, but suspended certain provisions that were included at the insistence of the United States. The UK formally expressed its interest to joining the CPTPP in early 2018, shortly after the CPTPP was finalized. This interest was driven by the UK's desire to diversify its trade relationships and establish itself as a key player in global trade, independent of the EU. The UK government saw CPTPP membership as a way to strengthen ties with fast-growing economies in the Asia-Pacific region and to demonstrate the perceived benefits of its post-Brexit trade strategy. Formal negotiations for the UK's accession to the CPTPP began in June 2021, following extensive preparatory work and consultations with existing CPTPP members. These negotiations were complex and covered a wide range of issues, including market access, regulatory alignment, and the UK's commitments under the agreement. The process required the UK to demonstrate that it could meet the CPTPP's high standards in areas such as trade, investment, and intellectual property, as well as to negotiate specific terms that would benefit UK industries. In March 2023, after nearly 2 years of negotiations, the UK reached an agreement in principle to join the CPTPP. This agreement was seen as a significant milestone in the UK's post-Brexit trade policy, and was widely celebrated by the government and by the Brexiteers. The formal accession process was completed later that year, making the UK the first European country to join the CPTPP and being the bloc's 12th member. The UK's accession to the CPTPP is part of a broader strategy to position itself as a global trading nation, I said, capable of forging new partnerships and capitalizing on opportunities outside of Europe. The decision to join the CPTPP also reflects the UK's recognition of the growing importance of the Asia-Pacific region in global trade and geopolitics, as well as its desire to play a more active role in shaping the rules and standards that govern international trade. The UK's membership in the CPTPP represents a significant step in its post-Brexit trade strategy, offering both opportunities and challenges. While Brexiteers have hailed the membership as a triumph of sovereignty and global trade ambition, as I said, the reality is more complex. The economic benefits of CPTPP membership are absolutely modest, and the UK faces new obligations that limit its policy autonomy. Additionally, the geopolitical significance of the CPTPP, while important, is not as transformative as some proponents suggest. As the UK navigates its new role within the CPTPP, it will need to carefully balance the benefits of global trade integration with the responsibilities and constraints that come with membership. And in summary, while the CPTPP offers the UK opportunities to expand its trade relationship and strengthen its ties with dynamic economies in the Asia-Pacific region, these benefits must be weighed against the challenges and those obligations that come with membership. The UK's experience with the CPTPP will be a critical test of its ability to succeed as a global trading nation in the post-Brexit era, and the lessons learned from this experience will shape the future of its trade policy for years to come. But even if Brexiteers always say that is just trade and not a political membership like with the EU, tell me about sovereignty again. Nevertheless, if you want to see anything else, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.